Welcome to how to use a recruitment personality test. If you've ever hired someone who looked brilliant in paper, possibly interviewed really well, and then turned out to be completely wrong for the job, then this video is for you. I'm going to show you exactly how to use a recruitment personality test in your next interview. So this is for recruiters, this is for people, line managers who are hiring, who are interviewing candidates. And we're going to be talking not just about how it works in theory, which we'll touch upon very briefly, but mainly how to actually use it for real with your next candidate and therefore save yourself an awful lot of heartache. Take you through it step by step, and we'll do it with a real report. And what I'm going to take you through is the PeopleMaps Recruitment Risk Guard system. And the reason for this is one of the most straightforward systems available. It's designed specifically for recruitment, really easy to use, and it will get you answers and results very, very quickly. So the first thing to know is that the personality questionnaire itself, this is absolutely key. Well, in the PeopleMaps system, Recruitment Risk Guard, it only takes 5 minutes for the candidate to actually complete it. Now, we compare that with many other profiling systems that can take 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes to complete a questionnaire. Candidates simply just won't do that. And what may surprise you is that the longer the questionnaire is, the less and less reliable the results become. And there's been a lot of research done by eminent psychologists along those lines. With this 5-minute questionnaire, it's designed for the internet and it gathers huge amounts of data in just that 5 minutes and is incredibly accurate as a result. And what you end up with is an actual personalised interview guide about that individual for the specific type of job that we're talking about. And that essentially tells you not just about who they are, but within that context of the type of job that we're talking about. And also provides you with questions to ask, things to talk about, and I'll show you that for real in a second. So let's go and do that right now. So this would be your typical PeopleMaps control room. As you can see, it's very simple to use, stripped right back. It's not overcrowded. If you've never seen this before, you will literally be up and running within the first couple of minutes. So the first thing I want to take you over to, and really what I'm going to focus on, is the library of reports. I'm going to take you through an actual report and show you how I would use this and how I have used this very successfully with many, many candidates over the last 20 years. Now, the reports do change from time to time. They're constantly added to, updated. There are literally thousands of report designs within the PeopleMaps system. But I'll show you the concepts and the basic idea, and you might use a slightly different report when you see it, but the idea and the principle is the same. So, I say this isn't really about the control room, this is about the report, this video, and it's really focusing on how to use a report to interview a candidate and hire the right people. So we're going to the library, so the suite we're looking at here, and again, PeopleMaps has many, many different suites for recruitment as well, but this one we're going to look at is called the Recruitment Essentials. And this suite really covers pretty much every type of job role out there. And regardless of what it is, whatever your job is, it will fall into one of these basic categories. So let's start. Let me quickly take you through what they are. So the first one is service and support. So many of the jobs that you have, you'll be able to very quickly establish, is this a sort of service and support type role? Are they talking to customers? If they are, then they might fall into this category. And now, of course, you will probably call it something else entirely, but you'll know if it's this type of job. Is it a sales job? Again, pretty easy to establish any kind of sales job. Well, this report would help you interview people for sales environments. Finance and admin, again, it's pretty obvious if what you've got there possibly falls into a kind of finance and admin type role. And that's quite a broad church, really. Technical and specialist, any kind of technical role, any kind of very specialist role where you're looking for a lot of knowledge about a small area, then that's probably going to be this report. Remember, we're only looking exclusively at their personality And what the report is giving us is within a certain context, you will need to establish their actual skills and their experience and whether they can do this or that. That's nothing to do with personality. That's an entirely different aspect. However, what we've found is that even if they tick all the skills and all the experience and all the things, if their personality is a poor fit for what you're trying to do for your specific work environment, then it doesn't really matter about if they've got all the skills. It simply will not work. They struggle with the basic environment. However, if you get a nice fit between them, their personality type, and the demands of that environment, then it will probably work really well, and you can always add more skills as you go. So again, project management, again, it's pretty obvious what that is. And then you're into the sort of supervisors and management type scenarios. And there's actually multiple reports here because that's a really broad subject. So this one deals with delegation, decision-making, motivation, engagement, performance management. The second report is looking at communication, development, training, leadership and direction, crisis management. So you can use one or more than one of these reports with any candidate. It's entirely up to you. So let's now actually get in and look at a proper report. And for that, I'm actually just going to show you, I think, one of mine. So we'll look at the service and support. And let me just take you through that so you can see what it looks like, what it contains. So the first thing this one includes is an overview, a basic introduction explaining who this person is and what they are like. And that gives you the big picture, if you like. And it's enough to really just get you started. You know what you're looking for here, what you should be expecting in this individual. Then we get right into the heart of it, the nitty-gritty. And this first section here is why they may be good in a service and support type role. So we're now looking at their personality type, not in isolation, but within the context of service and support. So what we can see here is that Martin builds rapport naturally and creates an inviting atmosphere. Well, that's probably a good thing in a service and support type role. They genuinely care about customer satisfaction. Right? Now, not everybody is wired that way. Every personality is different, and everybody brings something different to the situation. And what you're looking for is the things that they bring. Is that what you're really looking for in your situation? And then we go into the next section here, which is why they may struggle with service and support. So again, everybody has their issues too. Nobody gets a free pass on everything. So it's saying here that they may move too quickly for customers who need time to absorb information. They may prioritise pleasing the customer while protecting margins or boundaries. You know, they might not be able to say, no, this is the price and I'm not discounting any further than that. And that's sometimes very difficult for some personalities to do. And also, I say, moving too quickly. Some customers just need you to slow down, take your time, go over it again. Yeah, go over it again and again until they're comfortable with it. And this person would struggle with that. That would be something. So again, you can see, now understanding what each of these are, now, when it gets to the interview side of things, and before you even get to the interview questions, you already have huge amounts of stuff here to work with. I could easily spend all day talking to someone just using what we're looking at here as a catalyst. And that's the real key in personality, right? So personality, it's not just here they are, this is what they're like, you know, go ahead and do it. What the personality report, if you're really wanting to use it well, is it becomes a catalyst for conversation. The whole idea here is not about catching people out. That's the wrong approach to take. What you're looking at here is how do two strangers, you and the candidate, get to know each other really quickly and very accurately in a short space of time. And this is what it can facilitate. So for instance, I would ask them about that. It says here that you're really good at listening and you like customers to leave happy. Can you give me an example of that? Now we're into a conversation. Now we're into actual experience. I'm going to learn something about, well, yeah, I had this client and this is what I did and I did that and that's how we got there. And you go, and that will spur more conversation, right? Similarly, you would also talk about the stuff they might struggle with. And again, I wouldn't overly labour this, but I would certainly want to get in about it. So, for instance, they may talk more than they listen when excited about ideas. So talk to them about, okay, so how is your listening? How do you make sure that you're actually listening attentively and not butting in? How do you discipline yourself? Because from what it's saying here, that's something you have to watch. How have you managed that so far? Again, that is going to start the right type of conversation. You're going to now be talking about things that actually matter in this interview. So you could play with that all day. That would keep you going for ages. However, we've also included interview questions which are personality centric. So, for instance, tell me about a time when you consciously slowed your pace to help a customer feel more comfortable, and what changed. Now, again, it tells you why you're asking that. So that's really important. It's not just we're asking questions here randomly, right? These are personality centric questions. But more specifically, it's telling you why you're asking that, because that's giving you deeper insight into who this person is and how they are wired. And what it's saying here is that the profile shows that fast thinking and enthusiasm, so that's what they're like. So you want evidence that they can actually adapt to slower buyers. Not everybody works well with someone who's very fast thinking and full of enthusiasm. Okay, it's not always a good match for that prospect. Can they adapt when that's not what is required? So again, very, very important. And the questions, I say, in every individual, every situation, you'll be looking at a different set of questions. And then we get to possibly one of the most exciting areas on the PeopleMaps system, which is the personality gauge pairs. And each report comes with different gauges about different things. Some have a couple of gauges, some have 3 or 4 gauges. It really just depends on the report itself. Now, what we're looking at here, very specifically, each gauge is a spectrum. So in the first gauge pair here, we're looking at one end of the spectrum, we're looking at as a good listener, and at the other end of the spectrum, we're talking about they're very good at sharing what they know. And everybody falls as a preference. They all fall to one side or the other. So what we can see here is that this person scores 70 for is a good listener and 59 for shares what they know. So this would be described as a mild preference for being a good listener. So they're better at listening than sharing what they know, but it's pretty mild, and you can clearly say at 59 they don't really have any difficulty sharing what they know with people speaking up, basically. But at 70, that's a decent score for listening. Now, if they had a very low score, 20, 30, 40, even below 50 really, then the statement would not be that true about them. So if we look at this next one, we can see a much stronger preference. So this spectrum is looking at endless patience solving a customer's problems at one end, through to acts quickly and gets to the point. Now what we can see here is that at 80, this person is very high, strong preference for endless patience at solving a customer's problem. That tells you huge amounts about this individual. Now the corresponding aspect of that therefore is if someone's that patient to solve a problem, acting quickly and getting to the point clearly is the other end of that spectrum. You will never find anyone who scores high for both ends of the gauge. And this is a strong preference because the difference in number one, it's below 50 at 48. So it basically means that this statement, acts quickly and gets to the point, isn't that true for them. It's not 0, but it's not great. However, the statement at 80, endless patience solving a customer problem, is very true for this individual. 80 is a high score and a strong preference. Now, what you should also notice about the gauge pairs here is that each of these approaches is equally valid. Being a good listener is a good thing. Sharing what you know is a good thing, right? It's not a case of one is good and one is bad. Equally valid approaches to the situation. What you need to understand is that your situation will favour one of these rather than the other. In some situations, your role in general might favour good listeners, or your role might favour and be more suitable for people who don't need to be that great at listening, but they need to be really good at sharing what they know. Right? Only you will know that. That's where your deep understanding of your own work environment and the demands of the job really come into their own. And then finally down here, we have the performance bias section. This is really important because humans are very, very subject to conscious and unconscious bias. And when you consider that 50% of all hires result in failure, and that's data provided by the industry, by the REC themselves, it's pretty much about 50-50, it's a coin toss, then you can understand that just because you interview someone does not give you any guarantee that they are going to be great in the job. Pretty much everybody that is hired is interviewed. So clearly there's something wrong, there's something missing. Now there's many things. Part of it is there's not enough data. Well, a personality report will give you all that additional necessary, essential data to make a more informed hiring decision. This section here, this performance bias compensation, addresses one of the other big issues. It's almost impossible for a human to hire a poor performer in an interview over a good performer in the interview, regardless of what else is going on. And the problem you have there is, in every interview, you're essentially faced with two challenges. One, you're going to have a great performer, but they might not be right for the job. Or you're going to have a poor performer, but they might be exactly what the job requires. Interviews tend to test whether someone is good at interviews. They're a pretty poor evaluation device or assessment device of the actual job itself. And a personality report really helps close that gap and allow that great big void, that bridge, to bridge over that. So this helps protect you, the interviewer, from yourself, from your conscious and unconscious bias, and also protects you against really great performers, and also helps you make adjustments for people who are not great performers. And it therefore keeps things focused on, can they do the job well? Are they naturally good at what that job will demand? That is ultimately what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so that is how you use a personality profiler to improve on this 50% failure and get that number up to, only maybe 1 in 10 don't work out. That would be a massive improvement on your recruitment. It's all about reducing the risk of recruitment, reducing your recruitment risk, and ultimately hiring people who are naturally wired to do what your job demands naturally.